This is me as a 12-year-old, and this is me now. It's incredibly difficult to take a photo like this, and to not look like a prick. But I posted these photos, and a lot of you have asked for this video. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how I got to this point, how things went horribly wrong, so hopefully, you can learn from some of my mistakes, or find some motivation. So, for context, I used to be a very sporty kid. I used to run, do karate, play football for my local town, and was in Reading FC's development centre since I was 8 years old. I did a lot of sports for fun and to try and fit in. But at 12 years old, I finished primary school, and I was diagnosed with a knee disease which could be extremely painful. I wasn't selected to progress with Reading FC. Now, I could blame injury like a lot of people do, but honestly, my confidence just wasn't high enough. So, I spent the next summer falling into a massive rut, where getting out of bed was incredibly difficult, and I'd just play video games and watch films all day long. I just felt this weird mix of shame, guilt and hopelessness. I'd watch sports and martial arts movies. These were the two main things I'd do. And I noticed something amongst all these people. They were all in great shape. They seemed confident and genuinely happy. And these were the three things which I wanted the most. So I had no idea how, but I'd just stay up at night thinking how good it would feel to be in the same shape as these people. And this is where things really started. I'd put this numbing cream on my knees, which would last for about 20 minutes, and I'd run on a treadmill. Now, I hated running at this point, but I actually ended up running between 5 and 15 kilometers a day for an entire year. It brought a feeling of control, which I didn't really feel elsewhere, and the longer I stuck to it, the easier it became. I got lean, but I lost a lot of weight. Shin splints are extremely common, and after blocking a punch, my arm broke when it really shouldn't have. I was malnourished and frail. People I knew started sharing memes on social media about long distance runners, which didn't really help things. You see, I technically had a six-pack, but I wasn't any more confident. So, in my head at this point, there was only one solution, and that was to gain muscle, or I'd never be confident and happy. I had no idea what to do, so I just googled, and the first thing which came up was a YouTuber by the name of 𝗘𝗶𝘁𝗶𝗿.
In this video, I'm going to give you a 5-phase program that will help you build up your strength so that you can do 8 solid pull-ups without a problem.
I'd follow along with his workouts, which I honestly really hated at first. It often took me an hour of watching these motivational videos just to make it through, and I'd shut my eyes for all of the exercises.
Big body breathing into your balls!
I even had photos like this saved to my phone, unironically. Then, a few months in, I was watching my usual motivational videos, and something different came up. This time, it was a transformation by a teenager. And this was different because he wasn't preaching the slow and steady Scooby approach. He had achieved results, and fairly rapidly. I began following more and more of these teenagers who'd underwent body transformations. I began copying the clothes they'd wear, the supplements they'd take, and the workout programs they'd follow. I even got a job delivering papers, which would require me to wake up at 5 something in the morning. I was literally sleeping less so I could afford supplements. I remember everyone had these gym belts on, so I tried to make my own with my jumper. I'd take it off and tie it around my waist as tightly as I could. But you see, as these teenagers' progress began to accelerate, mine began slowing down. At first, I started cutting out the foods, which I thought could have been responsible for my slower progress. And this is where things took a turn for the worst. I tried a lot of different diets, but nothing seemed to work. The last diet would demonize a food, which the next diet would glorify. And I was not only feeling guilty about the types of food I was eating, but also the times I'd eat these foods. Going into a fast food restaurant made me feel incredibly sick, and this is where the guilt cardio would start. Every time I consumed something not clean, I'd often run, but no matter how much I ran, the guilt never really went away. And this was often followed by ab workouts with ankle weights, and trying to eat as little as possible the next day. I started looking at more hardcore diets and celebrity fitness. Things were now driven by fear. Fear which would stop me going out and socializing, eating a lot of the foods I used to enjoy, and also doing a lot of the sports I used to enjoy. The clothes I was buying were now to try and make me look less skinny, and I began avoiding photos. When I met my girlfriend, things only got worse, because at 17, I'd achieved my black belt in karate, I did pretty well at school, and I'd got in decent shape. But the confidence and happiness just never appeared. It was when I looked at my medical records, which were just this long list of overuse injuries, that I knew things couldn't continue like this. University was approaching, and the courses I wanted to do required me to get A's in all of my subjects, and would require me to work a couple of jobs for a year, and massively surpass the atrocious grades my teachers predicted me. Let's just say I cared slightly more about my deadlift than the inside of a mitochondria. And as indicated by my 18th birthday cake, made by my little sister, the pressure was now on. I took the exams, finished school, and anxiously awaited my grades, as I worked as many hours as I could. Despite how many hours I was working, I could never really afford to go anywhere with my girlfriend. I think this, mixed in with the stereotypical trust fund kids in Oxfordshire, doesn't really make you feel that good. So I also started a business. I'd use the money from my 2 jobs to ship products that I designed in China to the UK, and then I'd sell them on Amazon. On Wednesdays, I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning to work on a golf course. I'd be home by 3 PM, immediately drive to Sainsbury's. I'd train in the gym just before, and work 6 till 11 PM before returning home, with my lunch breaks for business. Barely an optimal environment for hitting PRs, but this is where I squatted 150 kilograms for the first time, and I deadlifted 200 kilograms. The disordered side started slowly going away. You see, it's incredibly difficult to worry about yourself when Karen's throwing a tantrum in the pasta aisle, and you're absolutely shattered from a long day of work. Which was good, because it was now time to go to university, and I'd been accepted. I joined the gym, boxing, and MMA society, and things were great. Although, at the gym society, it turned out I was one of the lightest guys there. A lot of the people trained strongman, and I remember this one guy, we were doing bench press, and he just puts 100 kilograms on for his first set, and he's just throwing it and catching at the top, just absolutely repping it out. I think it goes without saying, there was a fair amount of drug use at university. And while I do have optimal Psalm Goblin hair, I didn't want to be feeling like every time I had a minor health ailment that I was about to die. I didn't want to get a cough and feel like it was the end. I was also watching a lot more natural fitness YouTubers, so I still had hope I could achieve impressive results naturally. And my genius method at the time was to consume as much food as I physically could. It turns out, when you're sat at a desk and you have a big appetite, it's incredibly easy to gain weight. And evidently, this wasn't all muscle, so I planned to lose a lot of the weight after Christmas, because I was looking rather round, and this wasn't the look I was going for. I stepped on the scales at 95 kilograms, completely unaware of the challenge to come. I had my fat loss routine ready to go, and this is where this man ruins my day.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
Gyms were shut and lockdown was in full effect. I had just turbo bulked at arguably the worst time in the last 50 plus years, so I gave myself 3 months to lose as much weight as I could. At first I was stressed, frantically googling for outdoor gyms in my area, to which there was none. There was a kids park, but I didn't want to look dodgy, so I just brought some resistance bands and a pull-up bar. There was also a moderate drug addiction problem down our street, and the occasional stabbing. It wasn't particularly the place that I wanted to be running around out of breath in, so I stuck to home workouts, which was mostly HIIT and then shadow boxing. I even did some Joe Wicks follow-alongs, the ones where he isn't dressed as a frog. There was something weirdly enjoyable about watching someone in a much nicer place when you're locked down to a tiny studio flat. I took daily photos to track progress, but also some form of exposure therapy, which helped me dial back any dysmorphia I still had. It was just a good check-in each day. Over the summer, I returned to working on the golf course, this time to try and save money to make my YouTube videos, and things were going well. Until one cold morning, I was raking the frozen bunkers, and I just felt this electric shock-like feeling across the entire right side of my body. At first, I thought I'd been electrocuted, but every single movement I made after this, I had the same feeling. It was incredibly painful, and I had my arm put in a support. 2 months went by, and there was very little progress. I spent most of my time typing at a keyboard with my arms completely out straight because it was all braced up. And at this point, I started getting worried. I had this deep sinking feeling that everything was for nothing. When I was a kid, I used to idolize athletes, and now I was just technically a slightly fat software developer. Deep down, I saw it as gain muscle, get better at sports, and the confidence and happiness would follow. So what was I supposed to do now? I became obsessed with researching performance and work, and focusing on the things that I could actually control, instead of what I look like. Getting lost on a process or task seemed to be a much better idea. I read a lot of books, and slowly came to a realization. What I was looking for wasn't confidence, but self-esteem. And the best way I can describe self-esteem is the reputation you have of yourself. And a high self-esteem doesn't look a particular way, and it's not conditional. This goes much deeper than the stereotypical therapy advice given by hippies. It's another reason why following more experienced fitness trainers was so helpful to me. These people tend to do their jobs with a healthy level of self-esteem. They aren't posing with wads of cash and sports cars, because this is often just a facade. I came to terms with the fact that a leprechaun wasn't going to pop up with a confidence and happiness pill at the end of a body transformation. And it's at this point when my injury slowly started improving, to which I got really excited and began brainstorming ways to make a comeback. It was time to use fitness to improve my life, instead of it becoming my life. My new routine would need to be low injury risk. It should allow me to run, because I wasn't going to let memes put me off what I actually enjoy. It should assist with martial arts, or not take away from the sports that I enjoy. And it shouldn't take away from my number one priority, which was now work. Bodybuilding style training with a few adjustments seemed to fit the bill. It then became a matter of guaranteeing my success. So I did the thing I feared most, and booked a bodybuilding style photo shoot for a year later. Here's my results. I've made a full video on this. I learned a lot from respected fitness trainers, but also teaching people to apply the advice. It was now time to bulk, and this is where the real challenge began. At this point, I spent a few months, and the last of my savings, into creating a workshop to help as many people as possible achieve a body transformation in a sustainable way. Basically, it's like my version of a Patreon, and all of my time spent outside of these videos is spent here creating guides and resources. So if you want to directly support future content, I definitely recommend you check this out. So far the feedback's been great, and I really appreciate all the support. As indicated by this 𝗘𝗁𝗂 comment, there may have been concerns around sustainability. Now, I used to hate that word, so what I'm talking about here is sustainable progress. The way I see it is, if you suck at something, your goal shouldn't be to return to normal. It's kind of like a half pipe, where the further back you start, the more momentum you can gain, and the more likely you can be to surpass that point had you never sucked, if that makes sense. The best way to do this is to set goals, then identify the traits you need to achieve those goals. The key difference here is I wanted to focus on the following goals. I looked into sleep optimization, habit formation, and systemization, so things could more or less run in the background, as I wanted to focus on the things which were more important to me. For 100 days on the cut, I also did all of my cardio in virtual reality. I wanted to try and show that as long as you're in a calorie deficit, it doesn't really matter what you do. The only thing which really matters is that you enjoy it. In hindsight, it was probably not the best idea, and it didn't reach the gaming audience that I thought it would. But I guess it was an experience, and it helped with my video editing. Now I stay in decent shape for most of the year, with most of my time spent lean bulking. I don't compare myself to Hollywood actors, and I'm not trying to live like a influencer trying to get his capillaries out. I actually enjoy food and have a fairly big appetite. Things have pretty much returned to how they were when I first started, where my main focus was in enjoyment and just getting lost in the sport. A lot of these transformations you'll see, the music tends to start low and then it ends high, and it gives this impression that progress is just a straight line. But I'm here to tell you this is rarely ever the case. Most of you are going to face much bigger challenges than a lot of these body transformations you'll see. Very often, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it. I'm honestly quite angry, because I used to think that my disordered behaviours were helping me. I'd basically copy these influencers' eating disorders, and I'd just lap up all their supplements, even though, let's be honest, they definitely didn't have my best interests at heart. Now, I know I'm not a massive bodybuilder, and this video probably won't do well, because telling people how to get abs in a week is much more attractive than talking about self-esteem. But the reason I made this video is fitness culture's just got to that next level, and I'm here to remind you that external validation is never going to be as important as your internal well-being. I don't want you watching videos of yourself in 10 years' time, looking back on them and just thinking things really weren't as bad as I thought they were. Or worse, not starting because you're in a rut. You can make better progress than me naturally. You can do this while doing the sports you actually enjoy. And of course, this is all possible while accepting where you're at right now, because it's probably not as bad as you think. Over the next few years, I'm going to continue to make content to help you develop your fitness resilience, so fitness can improve your life instead of becoming it. So if you're interested in this, then please like and subscribe. I've also created a few free guides, along with a newsletter, to help you level up your fitness resilience. So definitely check that out if you're interested, and I'll see you in the next one.